What's up, beautiful people? How y'all doing? Welcome to Dialogue with the Davises. I'm Cedric, and I'm joined by my beautiful wife, Lashana. And we have been blessed again with the opportunity to sit before you and share one of those intimate conversations that we have en route to healing and discovery and growth and all of those wonderful, beautiful things. Know it's been a minute, man. We've been saying we was gonna be more intentional about when we record and when we put out content, but like my dude said, man, life be life, and for real. You know what I'm
Yeah, and it
saying?
has to be authentic.
Yeah,
I mean, I
definitely.
think try as we may, I think
Mhm.
it needs to be authentic.
Yeah, definitely. I think we definitely want to make sure we remain inside of that scope and never get too far removed from sharing genuine content and not just making this a production type thing, but have it to truly be something that brings about conversation that moves the needle in your relationships and leads to healing and discovery, and you know what I'm saying, just um a overall healthier environment in your home and stuff like that, and in your relationship. So um, without further ado, again, like I said, we've been blessed with the opportunity to sit before you and have another one of those conversations. And tonight, the topic is something that's kind of like what we've talked about off and on for a number of years, and we've had to revisit it.
Mhm.
But we recently had the conversation when we were sitting out in Florida with our young brother. Robin Ashley, and then we also continued that conversation as we came home and kind of discover some things about the transition and just figuring some stuff out. And
Mhm.
that whole topic is uh, the opportunity and what it looks like as you grow in your relationship, and dealing with the person that what I'm saying, your spouse or your mate or whomever you're in relationship with grows and becomes something different.
Mhm.
Um, I know personally, I'm nothing like the man that I was when we originally got married. Like when I was 25, like
Yeah, it was different.
yeah, it definitely was different. I was a little rowdy and
A lot, Robbie.
a lot rowdy.
A lot, Robbie.
I thought it was just a little
It
bit.
was a lot.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. But I was a little rowdier, and you know what I'm saying, not as mature, and
Mhm.
wasn't as focused on certain things as I am now. And my wife, and then also my body wasn't dip. Boy, I used to.
It's better now.
You think it's better now?
Yes.
But see, that's one of those things that we gonna talk about as it
Okay.
relates to you know what I'm saying, the transition. Because to me, boy, I done got a little chubby. You know what
I
I'm
mean,
saying?
but it depends on what you like, though.
Yeah,
I'm not
true.
really into. I like a man that looks like a man and feels like a man. Um, not to put anyone down or
Mm,
what you like is what you like, but I like to feel like I'm with someone that's going to be a protector.
I got you. But that makes
And I
sense.
feel like, if we're out somewhere, people don't know that you're gonna pray for them first. They're not sure, of what they're gonna get. They just look at you and say, maybe not.
Yeah, like I ain't gonna try it, dude. Yeah,
Yeah, I want to do such and such to her, but maybe not.
yeah.
Where if you had a different frame, let me put it
Uh-huh.
that way, they might be like, I'm about to get both of them.
Yeah, we might,
So
we might. But if we don't jump them, that's a
oh, we
problem.
gonna jump them.
Oh yeah, we
Oh,
gonna
we
jump
gonna
them.
listen.
Say,
Wait,
listen.
and I'm gonna let you pray for them, but we
say,
gonna jump. We gonna jump
say, listen. Don't get it twisted. We definitely
them.
gonna pray for you, and we gonna try to
After we
make
whoop
sure.
you,
But
we gonna whoop
boy,
you,
listen,
and
don't.
then pray for you.
Or we will jump you. You know what I'm
Yes, we
saying?
will.
Nah, but in all seriousness, man, just though this is one of those conversations. Like I said, when we first started, uh, it's kind of like a discovery phase as you move through those different seasons of your marriage. Again, like I said, when I was a young man, I was much more, you know what I'm saying, less tamed and not as mature, and didn't view things the way that I view them now. My relationship with God wasn't as intentional as it currently is. I wasn't as obedient, any of those other things. And I know as I've grown into this, it's been quite the transition for my wife and my family, and not in a bad way. I think this is just some getting used to
Mm-hmm.
as it relates to all of those different things. But we would like to try to make sure we bridge that conversation and hopefully allow you to have it in your homes as well. We were sitting down, like I said, with my brother and sister, and the thing that came up that was revealed in that conversation is the individual that we fall in love with initially. does not remain that same individual throughout the years that you remain together and stay with one another.
Hmm.
So how have you dealt with that throughout the years, as it relates to what I've grown into and how I've matured and developed and, you know what I'm saying, started moving in a different direction as it relates to life and just being a husband and father and all of those other things.
Hmm. Um, I think the core of who you are has stayed the same.
You think so?
Yeah, and I think that you are the same person, but you and I have a difference of opinion on that. I don't
Yeah,
think
we looking.
necessarily that people change.
Hmm.
I think they grow.
Okay.
So I think that you are at the core still the same person. You
Hmm.
still have the same values and the same morals. You just have matured in your belief systems, and
Hmm.
you've matured in how you handle things, that type of thing. So it's not been difficult because I fell in love with your heart, and your heart is the same.
Okay.
Your
Okay.
heart is not different than it was. Um, Even though you were a little bit more rough around the edges, you were always a good person.
Hmm.
Your heart was always good. You didn't go out looking for anything. I mean, if something came to you, you may have dealt with it different than you would deal with it now.
Hmm.
But you never were one that you didn't have a bad or dirty heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because
Yeah.
your heart stayed the same, it's been for me, it's just been watching you grow.
Okay.
And um, because I love you so much, I've tried to grow in the same direction, just like I feel like you've tried to grow in the same direction that I've grown in.
Hmm.
So I just think that, you know, um, we may be taking different terms or whatever, but we try to do them together.
Yeah, I think we definitely try to grow in unison with regards to the various aspects of our life. But I just I know personally, and you know what I'm saying. The same thing holds true with you as well. I feel like you're the same individual in terms of your ideologies and the core of who you are with regards to the way you view family and children
Hmm.
and marriage and things of those nature of that nature. But I do feel as if you've grown and you've matured in a great sense from a spiritual standpoint. But then there was also a different phase because when we first met one another, you were serving in the military. You were in the Air Force, and once you left the Air Force, continued in other branches of service and things of that nature. And I know your vantage point and your ideologies and everything else with regards to your military career and
Hmm.
how everything was moving at that current time led you to look at things one way. But now I know as you transition from the military that was a big change for you and it allowed you to grow into something different and explore other options with regards to career opportunities and goals and what it is that you were looking to grow into and
Hmm.
now starting to pursue. And I know that transition necessarily wasn't maybe the easiest,
No, it wasn't.
yeah. So, I mean, that change, I know, is something that we kind of had to work through because as you were changing in that regard and looking towards what was next, I was also having to kind of like adapt and adjust because I know. The reason you got out of the military is because of me asking you to make that sacrifice for our family and our children and whatnot. So I know at some point in time that there was a bit of a kind of like I won't say resentment, but like where you looked at it like, okay, I'm getting out of the military for him, and how did that adapt and how did that change, and have you look at me, and then also me looking at it like, okay, I'm asking my wife to be a stay-at-home mom. How is that going to lead to me now being a provider, and how does that look as far as our finances and the structure of our home and things of
Hmm.
that nature? So how did you feel about that thing at that particular time? And I know you've shared with me in the past like certain things with regards to what was on your heart, but looking back on it, how do you feel as if that made us stronger, or how do you feel like that hurt us, that transition from you coming from the military and now stepping into a different role as a mother and wife, and you know what I'm saying, being a stay-at-home mom?
Um, I think being active duty,
Hmm.
um, and then getting out of the active duty component,
Hmm.
and then going into the reserves.
Hmm.
Because I was in the Air Force active duty. I got out of the Air Force, went into the Navy Reserves. That was different.
Yeah.
Um, I just couldn't find my footing in the Navy Reserves. Then transitioned into the Air Force Reserves. Um, and then Katrina happened.
Yeah.
And that kind of displaced everything
Mhm.
because um, the area that I was, going to drill and everything for the Air Force
Mhm.
was destroyed.
Yeah, it was.
So I think that made it a little bit easier for me when you ask me, okay, look, don't go back into the reserves.
Mhm.
I think had I been active still,
Mhm.
I can't say that I would have it would I can't say I would have gotten out.
Yeah, definitely.
I think we would have had to figure it out because for me, um, you know, there are some children that they want to be a princess or they want
Mhm.
to grow up and be a doctor or they want to grow up and be a model or they want to grow up and be a singer. I wanted to be in the military.
Yeah,
That's all I
definitely.
ever wanted to do. I never wanted to go to college. I never wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer. I wanted to be in the military.
Mhm.
I think the only difference was I wanted to be in the army.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be in the army. Um, and I think had I gone into the army, things would have been different. They would have
Mhm.
panned out different. And maybe that's why God had me go into the Air Force.
Yeah.
Maybe God had me go into the Air Force so I could have that experience,
Mhm.
but then get out.
Yeah.
Because if I had gone to the army, the situation would have been completely different.
Yes.
And I think I would have done much better in the army, and then stayed in the army. Um, but answering your question, it was difficult to, and it's still difficult to know that I would have been retired
Mhm.
had gone had I gone into the army or had I stayed in the Air Force or whatever. I would be retired now instead of still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, but I also know that it was a blessing
Mhm.
to be able to stay home
Yeah.
and raise our children and be a stay-at-home wife because for me, um, I didn't realize aside from retiring,
Mhm.
that's the best thing I've ever done was be able to see every first step
Yeah,
and hear
definitely.
every first word
Yeah.
and be there for every first missing losing of a tooth or I didn't miss anything and there are so many parents that hear about that on the back end. Oh,
Yeah,
today the baby
definitely.
took their first step or they said their first word. I was actually there for it. So
Mhm.
um, for you to ask me to not go back into the reserves or not um, even pursue going back active duty,
Mhm.
um, it was very hard. But being a stay-at-home mother and being a homemaker, I can't imagine anything more fulfilling or rewarding. Um, and also to know that I am married to someone who we never missed a beat.
Nah, we didn't. I mean, we
And I never worried. I never worried about okay, I'm staying at home. Are the lights gonna be turned off? Or oh God, we know we're staying at home or we're
mhm.
eating tuna again.
Yeah, we
Like
didn't
that, we
have
were
that
never
that
in that situation. So it was just blessing after blessing after blessing.
mhm.
Um, so it hard to leave the military, yes, but not hard to be a stay-at-home mom or stay-at-home wife at all.
I mean, and I know I definitely over the years have expressed to you that I appreciate the sacrifice that you made and uh, taking that step back and moving and transitioning to becoming a stay at home mom, and then also supporting me throughout my career and the things that I needed, and it has been a blessing, and I feel as if it formed some foundational elements as it relates to the kids and everything else. I feel like having you home when they arrive from school or for those years that they weren't in school as of yet. and having you be at home with them to kind of like those development years assist them with whatever it is that they needed to have assistance with. I feel like that was a beautiful thing. And as you said, giving all glory to God, we didn't miss a beat, but there were times when things were tight. There were times
Yeah.
when financially we couldn't afford to do everything it is that we wanted to do. And I know, you know what I'm saying, with regards to who it is that we were, I know although we eased into those roles, me being a provider and you being a stay at home mom, which again, like you said, providing it was going to be that, but providing in an element or in a way where it was only one income in a house at a particular time. I feel like we eased into those roles, but I do feel like at times there were challenges that presented themselves. And the challenges that presented themselves, I feel like they allowed us to grow and mature and become um, a bit more sound as it relates to our whole family dynamic and our
Hmm.
family structure. And then it also gave us the opportunity because when you and I first met, you were kind of like in a situation where and not like you didn't have the ability to submit to a man or anything like that. So I'm definitely not implying that, but you were kind of like at the forefront of everything that was taking place. Like you know what I'm saying, were making your own decisions and
Hmm.
you were moving the way that you saw best and the way that you saw fit. And then when we kind of merged our lives together and we came into this whole dynamic of seriously dating and husband and wife and children and all of that other stuff, I know you kind of had to give up some of that leader, and you're kind of like a leader by nature as it relates to your personality. But I know at certain times that couldn't have been easy for you to say, okay, I'm about to just fall back and let dude, you know what I'm saying, lead, while I'm kind of like used to being the one that's in a leadership role or whatever. I know it wasn't easy, so but I mean, how did that feel for you in a given moment though? Like how
Not great.
and I know it didn't feel
um,
great, but like let me ask this: do you feel as if you ever had any resentment that grew in our relationship and in our marriage because of that decision? Do you feel like there were times where you resented me or resented our situation or anything else because
um,
of that decision?
I think the only thing that I can put my finger on
Mhm,
right now
mhm,
um, is resentment um, when we would talk about the military and you maybe didn't understand what the
yeah,
military meant to me.
mhm,
Um, to be a my grandfathers were in the military. One grandfather was a Marine, the other one was in the Army.
mhm,
Both of my parents in the Army.
mhm,
My aunt and uncle, who literally, my aunt Wanda and my uncle Carlton, who are literally another set of parents for me, they
mhm,
were both in the Army.
mhm.
My godmother was in the Navy. For me, in my family, we're either military or teachers.
Yeah, yeah, all of y'all, that's what
Period.
y'all
We're
do,
either
yeah.
military or we're teachers.
Mhm,
That is pretty much it. So for me, the military was just everything. I love to be on base. I love to see people marching. I
mhm,
love to, I love to I just love the military. I
mhm.
love the way the buildings smell.
Mhm.
I just love the military. And when we would talk about it, and you would be like, "It's a job,"
Mhm,
my thing would be, "No, it's not a job. It's a career.
mhm.
A job is something that you're basically never gonna retire from. And when you do retire, you're gonna have to still work again.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, you're not a job is something that you don't necessarily have benefits, and if you do, you're paying an arm and a leg to get into those benefits.
Mhm,
The military for me is like everything.
mhm.
So when you would talk about it in a way where it was like, my thing was always, well, hell, I could have stayed in the military and loved it,
Mhm,
and you could have stayed at home
mhm.
and felt about it.
I mean, I don't. It wasn't necessarily that I felt about it. For me, like how you said, for you that this was something that you grew up around with all of your family and
Right.
your mother and your dad and you know what I'm saying, these people that were close to you all were in the military, so you had this connection that I didn't necessarily have.
Right.
And again, you know how my story of me going into the military is, you know what I'm saying? Like
Completely
most,
different.
yeah, completely different. Like my mindset was not, hey, I'm going into the military because I love it. It was because of, you know what I'm saying, other reasons that we'll discuss at some point, I'm sure, in the future. But so for me, the whole dynamic was not to marginalize or, you know what I'm saying, negatively paint a picture of, you know what I'm saying, the way you looked at the military. It was
Hmm.
just simply me. I didn't have that same passion or that
Right.
same, but it didn't mean that I wasn't going hard and giving my best.
No,
Like,
you
you know,
were
I
doing your best, and it's funny because um where I mean, and just having a moment of complete transparency. Um, Here it is. I love the military, grew up around the military, and got in the military, and stayed in trouble.
yeah,
I mean,
you
like
are no soldier. I
I
mean,
stayed in trouble.
he was.
Um, and then you didn't
Mhm,
really know anything about the military, and
mhm,
you didn't um love the military, and you went in and you have done so well.
mhm,
I mean, you've done an amazing job.
mhm.
So that speaks to God's plan. God's
Yeah,
plan
that definitely
was
was God's
definitely
plan.
not
Yeah.
me being in the military. Like I said, I do, in all honesty, feel like if I had gone, like I said, if I had gone into the army, I do believe I would have done much better.
Mhm.
Uh, I love the Air Force. It just wasn't for me. It just wasn't a fit because, like, I'm surprised they didn't put me in jail.
I mean, I don't think you was doing
They,
anything that would.
well, no, no, no.
Yeah.
I mean, I stayed in trouble. I didn't say necessarily that I was doing
Mhm.
anything. I don't think I was doing as well as I could have been doing.
Yeah.
And I think at some point I just threw my hands up and I was like, you know what, forget it. I just give up.
Mhm.
Um, but I did stay in trouble. It was
Yeah.
it was always it was it was
I
it
mean,
was always some
I
paperwork
mean, I
in
yeah.
the drawer tucked away like as soon as she walks in, we go paperwork.
I mean, but again, to your point, I mean, I feel as if that was all a part of God's plan
Absolutely.
with regards to the way our lives have turned out and what it is that we're actually doing now. But like just and even staying on topic, like because again, the individual that you were transitioning into and the person that you were becoming, uh, they didn't necessarily look the same. I mean, military Lashana and Lashana, the stay at home mom, that was different.
Yeah.
Just like Cedric, you know what I'm saying, the individual uh, that was in the military, but not necessarily as career minded. It was just like I was in the military at one, and then it transitioned to me becoming more career minded because
I think
I
you
had
were
a
always
family.
career minded. I think that you just didn't love eat, sleep, and drink the military.
Mm,
But I've never known you to go into anything
mm,
and not be the best at it.
mm.
Be on
Yeah, I
top.
try my best.
You
Yeah, I try.
always are number one in the class, or
Yeah.
whatever. You do so well at everything. So I don't think that it wasn't. I don't think you were not career minded. I think that you just didn't. It just wasn't your end all be all.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's probably a great way of capturing it. But again, I mean, as we move through that phase, and I mean, we've been together for a long time, so there are various seasons that we could capture
Mm.
with regards to those transitions and things in our marriage. But just getting to that point of like who it is that we were growing into and who it is that we were becoming, it was almost like we were given an opportunity to fall in love a second time, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Because it was a new opportunity of discovery. It was a new opportunity of like getting to know who it is that you would
Hmm.
be as a stay at home mom. It was a new opportunity of you discovering yourself and things of that nature. So we had to get to that point, but though that loving one another and falling in love process, I think we had the mindset or the vantage point back then. I feel like it would have been a bit easier to look at it that way back then if we had that understanding that we do now. Because I think there were times where, and again, I mean, we've been transparent about our challenges up to this point with regards to certain stuff. Because again, back then, as we fit into those new roles and as we transition to that into that stuff, although we weren't intentional and we made sure we stayed committed to what it is that we were doing, it didn't always feel good at times, I'm sure.
I mean, I don't think any growth necessarily feels good. I
Mhm.
think any stretching is going to, be painful. I would guess a person that exercises a lot as
Mhm.
their body gets stronger. I would. I mean, because I'm not an exercise
Yeah,
person.
you're
I'm not
not
a
no gym rat or
I'm
nothing.
not a gym person. But I would assume a person who does, um, as their body is tightening or growing, it's uncomfortable. So I think that that's just with everything. I think anything that you grow into is going to be, or anything that's challenging is going to be a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think it will as well. And again, having a vantage point and the perspective that we have now, I give all glory to God for it. And because even back then when we were transitioning and going through that phase, I give God glory because I feel like He was the glue that kind of held us together at times as we did transition to that. Because I feel like we've always had something beautiful, and I feel like we've always had something um, that would be. A light in different areas that we entered into, but I don't think we always recognized, or that I don't think we always had the level of maturity to be able to see just what it is that God had did when He brought us together as husband and wife.
Hmm.
I mean, the story of how we met is beautiful, and the way that things came about. I mean, it was all it was God's plan and it was God
Hmm.
written. So we know and understand that part. But it was like I think at certain points in times that we didn't necessarily operate in a space that we should have operated in a manner that we should have operated to kind of make sure we would always be as strong as we could have been. You know what I'm saying? If that
Hmm.
makes sense. Like we like because there was a lot of times where our immaturity could have been detrimental. You
Hmm.
know, it was
Hmm.
it was a lot of times where our inability to look past certain things and say, oh hey, okay, when I first met her, she always had her feet done, had her nails done, her hair was always done. She always had on makeup. Every time I saw her, she was on 10 and things of that nature. And now we when we come together, that's not always the case. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? Like we when we first got married and we did things unconventional and we didn't do them biblically at first. We lived together before being married and all of those other things, but that was a transition of like, whoa, what that is on your head? You know what
Well,
I'm saying?
no, 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 no.
Well, I'm not saying
Yeah,
like,
fix that.
what you
Cause
mean fix it?
what's on my head.
Well, I mean, not necessarily like no bonnet
Yeah,
or
we
nothing like that,
okay.
but I'm
Oh no, because we're not a lot of these
yeah, I'm
people.
not gonna lie.
We're not a lot of these
No,
people.
remember you said we did.
We're not a lot of these people. Because I don't want you
Remember
telling
we
these people that I had a
don't say these people.
okay. We fix that.
Yeah, but I'm not saying like no bonnet, but I'm just saying like you might come to bed and your hair wasn't on 10 always.
Oh, okay.
You had that little wrap thing, like you because you used to have your hair long and you had that little wrap thing and you would put that little wrap thing with the little how
The
that little wrap
Velcro.
the little
Oh, okay.
Velcro.
Wait, not a bonnet.
You know, and then like certain stuff I would see on your face or whatever else, like when you was cleaning your face or whatever. I mean, I got the opportunity to see you when you wasn't on 10. Let me just say it
Oh,
like
okay.
that.
I just don't want.
I mean, it wasn't like you was just
Cause like,
just coming like out hit.
oh,
But
okay.
I'm saying though, like how does that look though for certain individuals with regards to that? Because that was a transition phase. Like getting to see that wasn't necessarily like just like we had to get to that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. But I am putting my bonnet on tonight now that my hair is lost.
See what I'm saying? But now you're gonna put a bonnet
I
on.
mean, it's different. But I just
See?
didn't, we had to clear that up though.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, I, I think that when you live with somebody, it is different.
Yeah,
It
it is.
is. Like okay, so before let's go with toenails. They're
Mm,
always done, but because before we were living together, you didn't see maybe when I took everything off before I went to my toenails done.
yeah,
Now
definitely.
you will see everything comes off on Monday and get them done on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So I guess that it is kind of like a little bit of a shocker, but um, I don't. I mean, I don't know. How do you feel about it?
I
Because
mean,
that's not.
I feel okay, but I feel like that's one of those things because again we both are in a situation where we're passionate about seeing families and marriages and relationships be in the healthiest state as possible. Those are some of those things again where if we would have been in a different place mature wise to have certain conversations that I feel like we could have, because that stuff right there, the you know what I'm saying, the
Superficial stuff.
superficial stuff, that was never an issue for us, I don't think. But then there were other things that we would transition into, and what that looked like, that I feel like may have caused us some challenges. And it was through our growth phase and through
Right.
our phases of stepping into new roles and new dynamics and whatnot. So again, it's just the aim is to make sure individuals and husbands and wives are having those conversations that say, hey, listen, this is kind of like what it is that I expect as we continue to move forward. And then, like you said in the last podcast, I think it's important to sit down and have certain conversations at various stages and various seasons of your marriage to kind of check in and say, hey, listen, this is what I'm in pursuit
Mhm.
of. This is
Mhm.
what this is going to look like. How do you feel about that?
Mhm.
And as the individual is expressing their heart to you, letting you know what it is that they're getting ready to go into, I feel like there should be some mature and hard conversations that are had to
Mhm.
let it be known, like, okay, well, I'm not, because think about people that switch careers in the middle of the marriage, or
Yeah.
when you lose jobs, or someone that is inspired by God to do something completely different, whether it's like in ministry or in some other capacity or regard with their passion, and now they're in a situation where they're not doing the things that they were once doing when they first got together with their spouse.
I mean,
I mean, that stuff is
yeah.
different. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So you
Yeah.
you have to you have to at some point in time sit down and have those conversations and say, wait, this is not what I initially signed up for. When
Yeah.
when we first got together, you talk this way and you handle business this way, and financially you didn't mind if we spent money on this, and now you're telling me we have to be better stewards. And you know what I'm saying, like in our case, like we, because we tied in our home. So like, we, before anybody get paid, we gonna make sure we give back, you know what I'm saying, what God has blessed us with.
Mhm.
Like, because it's not ours to keep, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying. So
Mhm.
we're always gonna make sure we're paying our tithes or whatever. But that wasn't always the case, boy. We've had some decent vacations, and you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, I we had shopping habits, and
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, things of that nature. So as we transitioned into that, thankfully we were both in a situation where, like, the tug of war wasn't necessarily too much for the other one to handle. But like, there could have been times where that could have been a serious rift, because like, I give glory to God that most marriages, sometimes they end because of finances, or you know what
Mhm.
I'm saying, in other cases infidelity, things of that nature. But like, we didn't have like that whole finance piece, and
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, like, we
Yeah.
didn't have that whole dynamic. So
Yeah.
there are some things that we haven't experienced, but then there are other things where when we did experience them, it was like, man, hold up, how we gonna deal with this,
Right.
you know what I'm
Right.
saying, how we gonna move forward. So I think again is very important to be able to sit down and have those conversations and be realistic with yourself as well as your mate, and say, hey, listen, I know you're not the same person that you were when we first got together. You
Mhm.
you may dress different. You may, because I don't even dress the same. Like, when we first got together, you know what I'm saying, I was wearing the big baggy clothes, and you
I
know what I'm
mean, that
saying.
was the time, though.
Yeah, I mean, it was the
It
time,
was
but
the
now
time.
it's like,
I mean, but you also are grown now. Like
yeah, definitely.
when
But
you
think, we know people that, you know what I'm saying, that are in relationships, and the change that the other spouses may be, that's not easy for them though. You know what I'm saying? Like,
um yeah.
that.
I
So
yeah.
yeah, we say that, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you were growing, and you were cool with like the, because even like my because that's another thing that I feel like has to be discussed. And just like even with our body types, you know what I'm saying? Like, that, like, you now say, hey, I don't mind you gaining weight and having a dad bod and this, that, and the other. But when we first got together, I was always in the gym. You know what I'm saying? I was
But
always in.
again, I that's not my that's not
But I'm
like
saying, I'm speaking to the point, that's not your thing. But think about if it would have been something where I had a body type, or I grew into a body type that wasn't. Think about if I became a runner and I just got real skinny, because I know you don't want me to be skinny. You know what I'm saying? Like, anytime I've gone to a school for the military and I've had to lose like an extreme amount of weight, and I would be more thin than you would like, it was always kind of like you'll be looking at me like but think you know what I'm saying? That's what you did. But think about what if
What I
I
do?
you would be you and then I would notice like after the school when I would come home you would be trying to feed me a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like you was trying to get me back fat or something. You know what I'm saying? Like you was like you hungry? You want something to eat? And you was
Because you would,
cooking breakfast, lunch, and dinner,
but because you look
and a
hungry,
snack.
but you look hungry,
But I wasn't
but
hungry.
you look like it.
Yeah, I mean,
Like you look like you're hungry.
but think
You
about it
ate
though.
it, so
Yeah, I
you were
did.
hungry.
Yeah, I was just getting back to the basics.
Oh, okay.
but I'm just, but I'm saying, think about what if it was a situation where I had been inspired to say, hey, I now want to be this triathlete, so to speak, and I'm not getting back to a status where you know what I'm saying. I'm gonna be big or whatever. I'm gonna be narrow now. How would you have dealt with that, knowing that that's not your body type that you like? Do you feel like you could have loved me through
I,
that? I mean, I'm like,
I mean, yeah, I could love you through it. I
so
mean,
me
I feel
being
like
skinny, you could have loved me.
I would love you.
Okay, but you would have had to grow into it.
I would have had to grow into it. I would have had
See,
to, yeah.
and that's the thing. So again, like we're blessed and we're fortunate in that regard. But this is a situation where what about those marriages where you have a husband or a wife whose spouse or significant other has taken on a body type or grown into something that the other one does not find attractive.
So, in all seriousness, I think that in those cases,
Hmm.
it, they maybe didn't ever love each other to their core. Maybe it was
Ah,
always superficial. Maybe it
superficial.
was
Yeah.
always she is beautiful. She has this, that, and the third, or he is so gorgeous.
Hmm.
He has this. Maybe they really never loved the core of that person.
Hmm.
Because what do you do if your person gets very sick?
Yeah,
I
for
mean, and
real.
their body changes.
Yeah.
Or they get very sick and they don't maybe function the way they used to,
Hmm.
or whatever. If you then are like, oh my God, this person is now whatever, I don't love them anymore.
Hmm.
I don't know that you ever did. I mean,
Yeah.
and I don't want to speak for everybody,
Hmm.
but it just would, to me, I would kind of be like, well,
Did you
and
love him
if
for
someone
real?
came to me and said, this is how I feel, because we have people that come to us and talk to us about very intimate things.
Hmm.
And my question would be, did you ever really, were you ever really in love with him, or were you in love with him?
Yeah, and,
You
and that's
know,
and that's something that I know we're going to talk about in a lot more detail in another podcast, which is like what is love? Like because I feel like people have gotten to a place where they've actually marginalized what love truly is.
right.
They've allowed love to strictly become a feeling or an emotion,
Hmm.
and love is so much more than that. Like
Hmm.
if even if you look at the different biblical texts and biblical scriptures that point out what love is, love is a call to action. Like it's a
Right.
it's an act of will and things of that nature, especially when you're talking about things that have to do with God, such as marriages and things of that nature. And even with marriage is a covenant. Marriage is not
Hmm.
something where you enter into it lightly and you saying, "Oh, if you gain a few pounds, man, I'm up." Or if you're no longer making six figures a year, I'm up. Or if we have issues financially, I'm up. Like that's not what it should ever be. But again, there's an understanding that must be had, in my opinion, when it comes to that the person you marry and you meet, let's say if you're fortunate enough to be married for 10, 15, 20, 30 plus years,
Hmm.
that individual is not going to be the same person that they were when you first got together with them. And you have to sit down and have those conversations and say, hey, listen, like, okay, I see you're growing into this, but what does that look like for me? And how,
Right.
how does that impact our marriage? And again, because like I said, I feel like people rob themselves of the opportunity to fall in love all over again. Like again, and not just saying that we've always done this with absolute ease or simplicity because
Hmm.
we've had our growing pains, but now looking back on it, And you and I, we've often said to each other, like, as we were growing through various seasons of our marriage and as we were transitioning through those particular things, it was almost as if we were afforded the opportunity to fall in love again.
Right.
It was almost like, okay, now this new you or this new thing that you've added to who you are,
I'm kind
now
of
that I've
digging it.
yeah,
Kind of
now
digging
that I've
it.
gotten
Yeah.
familiar with it and we've grown in that space together, like I love that. I appreciate that
Right.
about you. You know what I'm saying?
But I think a lot of people, I think, again, we were talking about, how our parents did things or how our grandparents did things
Hmm.
versus how we do things or how our children will do things.
Hmm.
The world has changed.
Yes, it has.
And I think everything is getting bigger. Everything
Hmm.
is more grand.
Hmm.
Everything is more of a production.
Yes,
You know, um,
especially with social media and
I
all of
mean,
that stuff
my
now.
parents got married at our family church
Hmm.
where we were all baptized.
Hmm.
And then they had their reception at my grandmother's house.
Yeah,
And it was
definitely.
beautiful.
Hmm.
People really aren't doing that now.
Nah, they got to
I
do it.
think
They got to do it for the gram now.
right, right. Everything is a production.
Hmm.
I do think that when the pandemic hit, I think when
Hmm.
people were doing smaller productions because they really didn't have a choice.
Yeah, definitely.
But I don't know how many people did that because they wanted to. Everything is, do you want to be a wife or do you want to be a bride?
Hmm.
Do you want a wedding or do you want to be married?
Hmm.
Because I think I want to, I watch all of the Say Yes to the Dress and Four Weddings and blah, blah, blah. I love weddings. I could get
Hmm.
married every year. But for me, it's never the production. It's the vows. It's
Yeah,
the what you're saying to each other. It is that. Um, but you hear people say my wedding.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
my wedding is blue and white. My wedding is this.
Hmm.
My wedding is that. And I'm always like, but it's not my, it's our.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, and you are talking about the flowers and the cake and the this and the that. Have you talked about what you're gonna do if somebody gets sick? Have
Yeah.
you talked about what you're gonna do if he or she makes all this money now and they lose their job because the company goes under?
Hmm.
Have you talked about if your husband or wife is in the military and you get a suck assignment?
Hmm.
Have you talked about that?
Hmm.
Have you talked about if your husband or wife is in the military and you get an assignment across the world and
Hmm.
now you have to leave everything that
Everything.
you
Yeah.
know? Have you talked about that? People are so caught up in the production
Hmm.
that I don't know if they ever really love each other or if they ever really thought,
Thought through the whole
thought through the
process.
whole process.
Yeah.
Yes, they love each other, but are they in love?
Yeah, I mean, but again, I like, and again, like I said, I know we'll talk about this in greater detail. But it's like, again, what is their understanding of love? Because I know so many individuals that when it comes to love, for them it's only a feeling or emotion. Like the moment that their feeling or their emotion changes, like and for me, that's to me that's not really love. At one point in time, I thought all that love was a feeling or emotion, but
Hmm.
that was when I was in a very immature state. But now I understand that love is so much more than that.
Hmm.
So it's like for these individuals who have not yet come to that or arrived to that place of understanding, for them it may very well so be difficult to like how you said, what happens if some dynamic that or some circumstance or situation or what this thing is that I fell in love with, not necessarily the person, is to be taken away. Will I still be able to be there through sickness and health and all of
Hmm.
these other
Hmm.
things as it relates to our marriage as a whole? And again, I think that's something that's very important to sit down and have a conversation about and have that dialogue about. And if you realize that you're growing apart and not, or if you realize that you're growing and your partner is growing and you all are not necessarily growing together but you're growing apart, I think somebody has to have a presence of mind to be able to say, hey, wait, let's sit
Hmm.
down and talk
Hmm.
about this
Hmm.
this new thing that's taking place with the both of us, and let's see what that looks like when we bring it together so we can both,
But that goes back to the I, my, me. It,
yeah.
it goes back to that. I'm not willing to. I'm not willing to give up my career to be a stay-at-home wife
Mm,
and mother. I'm
yeah,
not willing to give that up for you.
yeah,
I'm not willing to give up my six-figure job doing whatever for the betterment of our family
yeah.
because I am used to driving this kind of car.
Hmm.
I am used to having this name brand, or I'm used to doing a trip every year, or whatever it is.
Hmm.
Um, so sometimes people don't, they notice they're growing apart, but, and again, I'm not trying to sound judgy. It's
Hmm.
just from sitting back watching it happen.
Hmm.
Um, People get caught up in the me.
Yeah, they
They
do.
get caught up in
They
the
do.
me, and look what I did. Look what I bought. Look what I
Yeah.
accomplished. Look
Hmm.
what, and one, you didn't do any of it. God did it.
Yeah,
That's the
definitely.
first thing. You didn't
Yes.
do any of it because without God, you could have been under the
Yeah,
bridge.
definitely for real.
And be careful
Yeah.
because I would hate to be on the receiving end of being humbled,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, um, because it has happened to me before.
Hmm.
Thank God, not to such an extent, but there have been times where it was me saying the I or the me, and God being like, "Really?
Hmm.
Oh, okay. Well, since you did it, I'm gonna take myself out of it and let you see how far you can go without me in it."
Yeah, definitely.
Um, and I think that that's one thing when God takes Himself out of your marriage or relationship, and then also again when
Or
you,
if you kick him out,
or if you kick Him out,
you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, for
yeah, I'm
real.
good, God. I
Yeah,
got
we got
this.
this. We don't
You
need
brought
you.
me this
Yeah.
far, but I'm good
Yeah.
now. Um, or like I said, you see that we're growing apart,
Hmm.
but in order for us to keep growing or start growing back together, I have to give something up. Yeah,
Hmm.
I'm not giving that up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you keep doing what you're doing, and I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing, and we just gonna keep on,
Growing apart.
so
Yeah.
because sometimes someone has to give some stuff up,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
you have to weigh it out and see what's most important to you.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely is a sacrifice that must take place. But again, we've reached that point in the conversation where I feel
Right.
like this is one of those things that we could talk about for hours to come because we haven't even gotten to the other various seasons of our marriage. We may have to do this in a couple of different parts at, you know what I'm saying, some point in time because
Yeah.
like we only touched on the fact of, you know what I'm saying, you uh getting out of the military and becoming a stay-at-home mom. There's so many other things that have taken place that were a point of transition and change for us that we didn't even get to even touch on in this particular episode. But we again want to be respectful of everyone's time and not
Mhm.
sit here for numerous hours and just you know what I'm saying, ramble on. But we want to make sure that this is a conversation that we had that we were able to grow from and develop some level of understanding and hope that it does for you as well. Take some time to sit down with your spouse and with one another and talk about what the new you and a new him or her or whatever looks like and how the two of you can grow together and not get to a point of growing apart or just kind of like have one of those real difficult conversations and see what that whole dynamic looks like because it is really a beautiful thing to be afforded the opportunity to fall in love numerous times in your
Mhm.
marriage. I feel like now having the understanding and the vantage point that we have, it's almost like we welcome it because it brings about this new thing in the marriage. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? It's like it
Mhm.
doesn't allow the marriage to get stale. It doesn't allow the marriage to get old. But you have to have that frame of mind and look at it from that vantage point and say, hey, okay, this person is not changing to bring me harm or cause me like any disruption. I mean, now if they are, then that's a different topic of
Completely.
conversation that needs to be had. But if it's one where the individual and you all are growing and it's something that's been inspired by God, or if life just happens and it leads to some different changes or transition that you weren't necessarily used to, I feel like that's something that you need to sit down and just have a conversation about and be mature about it, and not be so easy to give up on it. Because again, like we were saying a few moments ago, the word love has gotten so watered
Watered
down
down.
and marginalized,
Yeah.
and you know what I'm saying, it's no longer that people are actually taking it for what it truly is. So that's definitely something to consider. And then just the whole dynamic of like, what is your reason for getting married? Is it because you're in love? Is it because, you know what I'm saying, the stuff? Is it because of the ceremony or whatever else? So again, these are conversations that I feel like that should be had early on in a marriage. And you know what I'm saying, well, let me say this, even before the marriage.
Before.
You know what I'm saying? So you can kind of have that level of understanding, and when you're having them, be honest and be completely transparent, so that way when you do arrive to that place in your marriage, you now are
You
better
prepare
equipped to
for it.
deal with it. Yeah, you could
Right.
deal with it. So again, I just would encourage, you know what I'm saying, everyone to sit down and have that conversation with your spouse or your significant other about what the new them or the new you looks like, and how that's impacting or affecting the other one. And again, yeah, I think this one that we're gonna have to do in a couple of different parts
Yeah.
with regards to that. So um yeah, that's all I got to say. I ain't gonna say I ain't gonna say nothing, but that's
Okay.
it.
I
Yeah.
was I was making sure.
Yeah,
I
we
was
good.
making
You
sure.
said these people tonight.
Uh, I mean, but because you were trying to make it seem like.
No, I ain't make it seem
No,
like
you
nothing.
did. He. I know you heard him. You heard him, and I'm not gonna have these people
See, there you
around
go
here
again.
feeling like
Oh,
early.
if you drop one more of these people, I'm
Like,
gonna get to just do my thing then.
no, I'm just saying, because you made it seem like,
Mhm.
oh, I used to come to bed with a bonnet on
Nah, it
and
wasn't.
a moo and because I still don't do that.
Nah,
Like,
yeah, you be smelling good and stuff when
I
you
don't
come to
do.
bed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
you
not
be,
do. Don't
yeah,
do that
yeah,
to me.
yeah, you still be alright. You know
Okay,
what I'm saying?
I'm
Yeah,
just
you
saying
still be alright.
because you know
Man, listen, that's what it is. Hey, look, but again, we just want to thank you all for taking some time out your day to sit down and share with us in this conversation. And um, I mean, please provide us some feedback and some content as it relates to some of those things that you all may be growing and going through as it relates to your marriage and what you're transitioning and becoming, and how you all have navigated that, or how you navigating it, or if you're having difficulty navigating it. Hopefully you could sit down and have a conversation that leads to some level of understanding that brings about growth in your marriage, and brings about the opportunity for there to be some healing and some
hmm
understanding to take place. So
right, some
um,
understanding,
yeah, definitely. So tell them about the stuff.
some other stuff.
Yeah, for the
I think that he wants me to ask you or gently nudge you to like, comment, share, and subscribe,
yes, please
and
do.
to turn on notifications so whenever we upload,
Mhm.
you'll be notified.
Yes, please do it, and share with your friends if you enjoy the content, man. Because again, like we said, this is truly the inspiration of God, and
hmm
we're just hoping to see as many marriages be healed and made whole, and come
Be
together from
successful.
this and be successful. Because the whole family dynamic is so important in our communities, man. We're struggling. The enemy is definitely attacking
Right.
the fabric of marriages and the sanctity of marriages. So we just want to see everybody heal and made whole and healthy and happy and joyful, and not as impacted by situations and circumstances. So again, we thank you for spending time with us. You all have a blessed remainder of the day, and you know what I'm saying, do something positive today. You know what I'm saying, have a beautiful peace.
See you later.